Hello, dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to a new tea class with me, your host, Stéphane Erler. I'm the founder of the Tea Masters blog and the tea-masters.com tea boutique, where you find all the beautiful teas that I select and the great teaware. And also a sampler with 10 teas that we are studying this semester at the rate of one study every 2 weeks. Today is again this day. We are studying this today two teas from the same plantation, Alishan Jiangshuhu, an organic plantation that I found 2 years ago, albeit by accident, by chance. I was out with a French TV station that wanted to make a documentary about Alishan and their tea fields. Actually, they came to do two kinds of news reports. First, about the geopolitical situation of Taiwan, and then a more relaxed documentary about Alishan and its tourist attractions. A large part was dedicated to tea, and another part to the national park of Alishan and the nice sunset that you can see there. The documentary took over a year to be aired on French TV, but finally it happened. I'm glad. And what was interesting when we shot this documentary is we were looking for a plantation with some activity, with some humans around. Preferably, they wanted to see some tea picking, but they came in July and it was really outside of the picking season. So we were still lucky. We found one plantation with two guys working in it. And so we approached these two guys and asked what they were doing. It was the tea farmer and his son-in-law, and they were there simply taking care of the weed that was growing in the plantation. They were using their bare hands or some knives to cut the weed. No chemicals. This is what they explained to the TV reporter. They insist on using normal, completely natural means to take care of the weed. I could see that there were a lot of weed growing in the plantation because it was summer, so that's really when there's a lot of activity, good sunshine, also good rain. On the fortnight there was a huge amount of rain that fell down, so nature is very quick to grow in Alishan during the summer. And the farmer said yes, he's coming 2-3 times a week to do this work because he does not want to use chemicals for two reasons. One, he wants to protect his soil. He does not want to poison the soil in his trees by using too much chemicals. And he also thinks that he does not want to put chemicals in the soil that will be absorbed by the leaves. For him, this makes a better tea, better quality. And definitely, when we compared this tea with another tea from Alishan 2 weeks ago, I found that this tea really has, from this plantation, a much purer taste. The aromas were a little bit on the lower side, but the taste was really very pure. Today, we are going to try a second tea from this very same plantation. So this is the one we tried last 2 weeks ago, harvested on May 1st. And this one harvested on May 6th, so 5 days apart. The smells are very similar, but when I look at the color, it's a little bit different. Definitely, I would say that it's not the same tea, even though both are the same cultivar, the same plantation, and only 5 days apart. But the color is a little bit different, and the shape also a little bit more stems on this one on May 1st and on May 6th. But let's find out more about these two batches and brew them. Now, one of the reasons why you get several batches of tea from the same plantation is that either the plantation is quite large and it cannot be harvested in just one day, so it takes several days to get harvested, or and why does it take several days? Because also the manpower is scarce right now in Taiwan. This is now more and more done by foreign laborers, less and less by locals, and it used to be a purely female activity. Now I see more and more men who are also participating in harvesting oolong in the mountains of Taiwan, and some are getting really pretty good at it and are quite quick, but still for some larger plantations it can take several days to harvest it all. So what farmers then do, they start to harvest those part of the plantations where the leaves are the most mature. Usually in spring this means starting at the lower part of the plantation and moving your way up, because the higher the colder and therefore the growth takes a little bit more time. But depending on each plantation, also with how the sun shines, it might be a little bit different. I use the same weight for both gaiwans, the same gaiwan, so the same size. I really want to make a very scientific comparison. So taking the same amount helps to make sure that any difference in concentration is due to the leaves themselves and not to the amount of leaves that you are using. It makes sense, of course, that if you use more leaves, the brew will be more concentrated. But here it won't be the case because it's a different weight, but because it's the leaves themselves. So we preheat also our cups. In order to better understand the differences between these two batches, I start with a long brew, especially for high mountain oolong, which are rolled. They take a bit more time to open up, and the longer you brew them, the more the flavor come out, and the easier it will be to see differences. If you brew them very light, then it's the same water, so there would not be much difference. So by brewing a little bit stronger, you are more likely to find out the differences. So this is also a little bit a trick, and it also helps us to understand that we need to get the leaves to open up. Not completely there yet. So we continue. I use this time we're waiting for the leaves to open to please give me a thumbs up while you are watching, while we are waiting. Now we have somebody called Calvin Harris who says hello and how are you? I'm fine. I'm doing what I love the most, drinking tea and teaching some tea. So glad that you could join. So in order to get the most out of these lessons, it's best if you have the sampler with you and you brew it while I teach. Then you can also get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. You can always rewatch these videos. They stay online on YouTube. So now we are emptying both teas. Somebody's asking me Kinesi, where I'm from. So if you have not guessed it from my accent, I'm from France and I'm living in Taiwan, and I've been writing about tea for the last 20 years on the Tea Masters blog. And oh, very interesting. We already can see from the brew a much lighter color on May 1st than on May 6th. So the concentration is different. It seems more concentrated, stronger, a bit more yellow on May 6th and a greener, lighter color on May 1st. Nice fresh smell on May 1st. A bit more intense, a bit fruitier smells, aromas on May 6th. The leaves look a bit different. I would say they look greener, fresh green on May 1st, and they look a little bit more yellow, a little bit darker in the May 6th batch. I propose that we now try to drink it. To see what is the difference in taste. Now, this approach is very different from the Lipton approach or the big tea brands. What they're trying to do is to propose a very standardized tea for the millions of customers, that the tea should always taste the same. So they are mixing batches in order to blend the tea and always get a very similar aroma. Here, what we are trying to accomplish by this comparison is the opposite. What we are looking is to see how each batch has its specific aromas, and that tea is so sensitive to little variations in weather that just a few days difference make a change in the aromas, and we want to study this difference in aromas and better understand them. May 1st, sweet, light, fresh, flowery, fine. And May 6th has more power, still very sweet, and the aromas are a bit less on the fresh flowery side and a bit more on a bit more mature. So since we are in the same plantation, it's still very similar in the global feeling, but here there are trade-offs. What we gain in freshness, we might lose a little bit on the other side, but what we gain in freshness, we lost in strength, and here what we lost in freshness, we gain in strength. So it's a bit a trade-off. Both are really excellent quality. It's more, you find out what you prefer yourself. Are you really into the lighter floral aromas, or are you a bit more attracted to the powerful and more mature aromas? So two teas from that are very close, but it's also a very good exercise to taste for your taste buds. Are you able to taste the difference between these two teas? Maybe when it's your first test, for your first try, it won't be so easy for you to see the differences. I really recommend that you do this kind of exercise in the morning before lunch. That's when your taste buds are the most sensitive. Also, you have not eaten a large lunch yet, so your taste buds were quite rested and are fully awake now in the morning. If you had a spicy lunch or dinner, maybe a smoke, this will definitely mute your taste buds, and it will make it much more difficult to taste these differences. So this is, I hope, a very good exercise for you to get a more acute sense of what your taste buds are able to differentiate, and you will also find out what kind of high mountain oolong you prefer. And my goal is really to make you an expert, become a tea master yourselves, so that you are able to taste the fine differences, so that you will be more demanding and demanding better quality, because you understand that all these little details about the harvest time, where it comes from exactly, how the plantation is managed, all this always adds up and influences greatly the quality of your brew at the end. So these exercises help you to become better brewer and also a better drinker, and therefore a better consumer. Now, let me see if there are any questions about these two teas. I'm an aggressive person. Many people suggest me to try green tea. Sri Lanka tea is amazing. I like it. I think we have a troll making his own advertising. No problem. There are lots of different teas for different people, and we can also pour like this. It goes a bit faster. Now the temperature has come down. It's also easier to taste. And lots of purity, very smooth. That's what I particularly like about this plantation. And just a little bit of difference to make it interesting. Now, for most people who are not into tea, they probably won't be able to tell the difference between these two teas. Or it's the same. I guess that it would be their reaction. But if you are into tea, if you have some experience, these little differences are, I think, really quite useful to better understand how much a high mountain oolong can vary from one day to another, why it makes sense really to get the exact date of each batches, why it makes sense to get single batches and not mixed batches, because then you can really taste the variations of the aromas due to the weather. Of course, this makes sense most of the time. As we progress in the season, it becomes warmer every day. Also a bit more sunshine, so it makes sense that the first leaves harvested earlier on May 1st would be fresher than the others. Okay. So here we can taste the fact that on May 6th there's been more sunshine. The sun is growing every day. It shines a bit longer. It becomes a bit warmer, and we can taste this in these two batches, that the leaves become more mature. We already had this case 2 weeks ago when we compared it to April 10 harvest. Here the contrast was even more intense because there were 3 weeks difference. Here it's only 5 days, but already 5 days is enough to create this kind of differences in aromas. Yeah, when you are brewing with the Gaiwan, you can help yourself with the lid to make the leaves that are at the bottom come up and unfold better. And let's empty it. In my previous class in French, one student mentioned that the differences are easier to see on the third brew. When you brew several times, at the end the differences are larger. This is really probably the case, but since usually it's the best aromas, the finest aromas come in the beginning, it still makes more sense to really focus our attention on the first brew. This is what counts when the tea is at its best, at its top. Here in the second brew I can still see that May 6 is more intense, darker in color, slightly. And the leaves also look quite different. This time a bit more yellowish here and darker there. We can also touch them, see that they are not old, so that they won't be bitter. But this is not the case. But here it looks like the leaves indeed on May 1st are a bit smaller, younger than the leaves on May 6th. They look really more mature. Now, here, but it's only 5 days difference. Of course, with the same plantation, since it's not in such a steep slope, there won't be such a big difference. They grow actually quite similar in speed. Still here, even a milky feeling, very round, very nice. And some leaves can still open up a bit longer. We can see the torn stems with its hand harvested tea, and the stem is quite flexible, so these are not old leaves, high quality, just the way they should be, but with a little bit of a twist between the two. I hope that you have found this comparison interesting. I we'll do a different tea class next Sunday, which will be again a tea pairing, where we are going to pair a tea with a particular kind of food. And we'll continue with this sampler in 2 weeks, and I hope that you'll join me. If you have not yet ordered the sampler, you still have time, and it's still time, still early to order for Christmas. Thank you very much for your attention. Let me now see if you have any further questions. I don't see more questions from you. Let me, I'll have a last drink, and I will let you time to write. Otherwise, you can always put a comment during the week if you are not watching it live. Nice. And here a little bit more power, more taste. So I was glad that you could join. Thank you very much for your interest, and see you next week for another tea class with me, Stéphane Haller. Bye bye.